U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance is in Israel as the Trump administration works to shore up that fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. It also aims to push for the next critical phase of its 20-point Gaza peace plan. In fact, the U.S. Vice President says he has great optimism that the Gaza ceasefire will hold. This is Vance's first visit there as Vice President. It is seen as a strong signal of America's commitment to a permanent end to the war. He is expected to press Prime Minister Netanyahu to begin talks on long-term issues, including the formation of an interim government in Gaza, the deployment of an international stabilization force, a gradual Israeli military withdrawal, and eventually the disarmament of Hamas.
Hamas doesn't comply with the deal, very bad things are going to happen. But I'm not going to do what the President of the United States has thus far refused to do, which is put an explicit deadline on it, because a lot of this stuff is difficult. A lot of this stuff is unpredictable. You basically have two regions in Gaza, one of which is relatively safe, I wouldn't say very safe, and one of which is incredibly dangerous. And part of ensuring that we get to a durable peace is to broaden the scope of the area that's safe. And the International Security Force is a big part of that. We don't yet have the International Security Force set up. That's something we're working towards. We have a number of volunteers who want to participate in that International Security Force.
And joining the U.S. Vice President in Israel are Trump envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, who are also key figures behind the original ceasefire deal. Their mission now is to keep the momentum going, despite fresh escalations that threaten to derail the truce. And on Sunday, a Hamas anti-tank missile attack killed 2 Israeli soldiers. Israel responded with massive airstrikes, killing at least 45 Palestinians reportedly. Prime Minister Netanyahu said 153 tons of bombs were dropped in retaliation for what he called a blatant ceasefire breach.
Hamas immediately felt the force of our arm. We attacked it with 153 tons of bombs. 153 tons of bombs. We attacked dozens of targets throughout the length and breadth of the Strip, eliminating many terrorists, including senior commanders. I made it clear from the start, a ceasefire is not a license for Hamas to threaten us.
Despite the violence, both sides insist they remain committed to the ceasefire. Hamas says it's facing extreme difficulty locating the remains of the deceased hostages under the rubble. 13 of the 28 known hostage bodies have been returned since the truce started. 20 living Israeli hostages were released last week, remember, in exchange for nearly 2,000 Palestinian detainees. But the path forward remains politically complex, to say the least. Prime Minister Netanyahu has made it clear his opposition to one major element of Trump's peace plan, the participation of Turkish military forces in the proposed international stabilization force. He has called it a red line, pointing to Turkey's growing regional influence and strained ties with Israel. Netanyahu is also wary of Turkish companies involved in the reconstruction of Gaza, which the Turkish president is actively pursuing. Still, sources reportedly say the U.S. is holding advanced talks on that front, with Israel maintaining a cautious stance. And the humanitarian situation in Gaza remains dire. Meanwhile, the UN's World Food Programme saying that while more than 6,700 tons of food entered Gaza since the truce began, it still falls well short of the daily targets.
Since the ceasefire started on the 11th of October, we've now have over 530 trucks into Gaza supporting bakeries, nutrition programs, general food distributions. So far, we've had over 6,700 tons of food. That's enough for close to 500,000 people for 2 weeks. Daily deliveries continue, and they are now averaging around 750 tons. That's much better than what we had before the ceasefire, but it's still well below our target, which is around 2,000 tons every day.
According to Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry, the death toll from Israeli strikes now stands at 68,216. Since the war started on October 7. In fact, Trump saying that the ceasefire is still on track, but issued a blunt warning that Hamas will be wiped out if they break it. And for now, the focus remains on keeping the current ceasefire alive and laying the groundwork for a fragile but potentially transformative peace situation.